Butter. For 40 years, the government told you butter would clog your arteries. The science said otherwise the whole time. Butter took the blame because it's high in saturated fat. And from the 1970s on, federal dietary guidelines treated saturated fat as a straight line to heart disease. That idea came back shakier than the warnings ever sounded. In 2014, a review in the Annals of Internal Medicine pooled 76 studies covering more than 600,000 people and found no clear tie between saturated fat and heart attacks. The low-fat craze in the 80s and early 90s even pushed people toward old-school margarine, which was packed with trans fat. A fat we've since proven is the real heart wrecker. The thing sold to save you was doing more harm than the food it replaced. Butter was never health food, but in normal amounts it sits a lot closer to harmless than 4 decades of warnings let on. Donuts. You think French fries are bad? A donut takes the worst thing about them and makes it worse. A French fry is just potato cooked in oil. A donut is dough cooked in that same oil, except the dough's loaded with sugar, and then they coat the outside in even more. So you're getting deep-fried grease and a double hit of sugar in the same bite, which is why one plain glazed donut can run 300 calories, and that's before they add sprinkles. Because there's no fiber, your body burns through all that sugar fast, and an hour later, you're crashing and hungry again. Some donuts are even fried in the kind of oil that leaves trans fat behind. The same stuff that got butter's old replacement banned. A food this good at being bad almost deserves a little respect. Red meat. Red meat gets talked about like a heart attack you eat with a fork, but plain steak isn't where the real danger lies. People avoid red meat for 2 reasons. They've been told the fat will clog their arteries, and that the meat itself causes cancer. Both worries ease up once you separate a fresh cut of beef from the processed stuff like hot dogs and sausage. The World Health Organization does call unprocessed red meat probably carcinogenic, but that same category includes things like drinking very hot tea and working the night shift, so it's not the alarm bell it sounds like. As for your heart, newer research has found that old link between fresh red meat and heart disease is far weaker than people were led to believe, once you take the processed meat out of the numbers. A normal portion a few times a week gives you plenty of protein, heme iron, the kind your body absorbs easily, and the B12 you can barely get from plants. The real problem was never the steak, it's what gets done to the meat after it leaves the animal. MSG. The headache people swear comes from Chinese food traces back to a single letter published in 1968, and the science never caught up to the panic. A doctor wrote to a medical journal describing aches after a meal and pinned them on the seasoning MSG, short for monosodium glutamate. The story outran any testing, and a label stuck. Chinese restaurant syndrome, a name that says more about 1968 than about the food. When researchers finally ran proper double-blind trials, where neither the eater nor the tester knew who got MSG, the symptoms vanished. Glutamate, the part doing the savory work, is the same compound that gives Parmesan and ripe tomatoes their depth of flavor, and it's in human breast milk too. After decades of controversy, the worst anyone's actually proven about MSG is that it makes food taste good. The same people who avoid Chinese food over it will happily chow down on a bag of flaming hot Cheetos, which lists it right on the label. White bread. Of every food people fear on a plate, white bread might take the most heat, and this time the fear mostly holds up. To turn flour white and soft, millers strip out the bran and germ, which is where almost all the fiber and nutrients are. What's left is mostly starch, and your body turns that starch into sugar almost immediately. That's why white bread scores around 75 on the glycemic index, the scale that ranks how fast a food raises your blood sugar. Plain table sugar sits lower, closer to 65. 2 slices raise your blood sugar faster than a spoonful of the sweet stuff, minus the fun of actually enjoying dessert. One bread gets a pass though, and that bread's sourdough. It's made with live bacteria that sit in the dough for hours and eat a lot of the sugar before it's baked, so it raises your blood sugar much less than regular white bread. And unlike white bread, the fermentation leaves you able to absorb the iron and zinc inside it. Soy. Plenty of guys keep their distance from soy. Sure, it'll tank their testosterone and grow them a chest they never asked for. It won't. The worry comes from phytoestrogens, plant compounds that look a bit like the human hormone estrogen on paper. On paper is where it ends. They're far weaker, and they don't switch on your body's estrogen system the way real estrogen does. A 2021 meta-analysis of 38 studies on men eating soy found no drop in testosterone and no rise in estrogen at normal amounts. That covers tofu, soy milk, right down to the edamame you pick at before dinner. The only men it ever feminized were eating something like a dozen servings a day, which nobody does by accident. Pizza. Pizza's reputation depends entirely on which pizza you mean, because two slices can be almost different foods. A slice built from scratch, real dough, and an honest layer of cheese is a fairly ordinary meal. Most pizza isn't that. The frozen and delivery kind sits on refined crust that spikes blood sugar the way white bread does. Then it gets loaded with processed meat and engineered to pack a big calorie count into a slice you'll eat 3 of. One slice of the delivery stuff can run you 400 to 700 calories, depending on toppings, not to mention a third of your day's sodium. The homemade version is dinner. The delivery version is junk food in a bigger box. Deli meat. Your ham sandwich is sitting in the same cancer category as cigarettes. Not close to it. The exact same one. While red meat sits in the lower group with the night shifts and hot tea, deli meat is in group 1, the WHO's top tier, the one reserved for things proven to cause cancer in humans, right next to smoking and asbestos. Same category as cigarettes doesn't mean same danger though. That top tier is about how certain scientists are, not how deadly the thing is. Smoking raises your lung cancer risk about 20-fold. A daily deli habit raises your odds of colon cancer by about 18%. Both are proven, one is just far worse than the other. The damage comes from the curing. To keep ham and salami pink and lasting for weeks, makers add nitrites, and once those hit your gut, they can turn into nitrosamines, compounds that damage the lining of your colon. The World Health Organization puts the danger at about 50 grams a day, which is roughly 2 slices of deli ham. That's less than most people put on one sandwich. Canned tuna. Canned tuna gets a side eye over mercury, and it really does contain some. It just doesn't add up to much at the amount most people eat. Mercury works its way up the food chain as bigger fish eat smaller ones, building up in the flesh over a lifetime, and tuna is high enough on that chain to carry a fair bit. The whole thing comes down to how much you eat. The light tuna in most cans is one of the lower mercury kinds, and the FDA says 2 to 3 servings a week is safe. You'd have to eat tuna every single day for months before the mercury became a real problem. The one exception is pregnancy, when you'd want to cut back, since a developing brain is far more sensitive to it. For everyone else, a sandwich or 2 a week is nothing. It's the person living on the stuff who should ease off. Energy drinks. People blame the caffeine in energy drinks, but caffeine's the part your body knows how to handle. The rest of the can is the trouble. A big 32-ounce can holds around 300 milligrams of caffeine, about 4 coffees worth, except a coffee doesn't come loaded with taurine, guarana, and a pile of sugar all in the same drink. That combination is what does the damage. Your heart beats faster, your blood pressure goes up, and a 2019 American Heart Association study found energy drinks threw off the heart's electrical timing, something plain caffeine doesn't do on its own. There are real case reports of young people with no known heart problems ending up in the ER with dangerous heart rhythms after drinking them. Coffee gives you the caffeine and stops there. An energy drink gives you the caffeine, the stimulants, and the sugar all at once, and your heart is left to sort it all out. Popcorn. Popcorn gets shelved next to chips and candy, but on its own, it's closer to a health food. It's a whole grain, meaning you're eating the entire grain with the fiber still in it, the part white bread throws away. Air-popped, a big bowl is low in calories and genuinely filling. The corn itself isn't the problem, it's everything poured over it. The butter and caramel that turn a light snack into a heavy one. There's one real horror story attached to popcorn though, but it has nothing to do with eating it. Back in the early 2000s, workers at a microwave popcorn factory started getting a serious lung disease from breathing in the fumes of the fake butter flavoring, a chemical called diacetyl. That's where the nickname popcorn lung came from, the factory, not the snack. The major US brands pulled diacetyl around 2007, and in all that time, only a single regular customer was ever documented getting sick. A guy who microwaves several bags a day and stood there breathing it in. Unless that's you, popcorn's nothing to worry about. Chicken skin. Plenty of people strip the skin off their chicken like they're disarming a bomb, tossing the best part over a danger that left town years ago. The guilt is about fat, and chicken skin does carry it, but roughly half of it's monounsaturated fat, the same kind in olive oil and avocados. That's the fat that can actually lower your bad cholesterol, not raise it. The old fear ran on the idea that every kind of fat clogs your arteries, the exact thinking that wrongly buried butter for decades. Leaving the skin on while the meat cooks keeps it juicy instead of dry, so you get more flavor and better meat at the same time. Scraping it off is just throwing all that away to dodge a threat that's long gone. Processed snacks. The headlines call processed food poison. Politicians want it all pulled from store shelves. But when you really dig into the science, it's a lot shakier than the panic makes it sound. Crackers, chips, packaged snacks. Big studies do link diets full of them to higher rates of heart disease, diabetes, and obesity. But the headlines fail to mention that's a correlation, not proof they cause it. The people eating the most of this stuff also tend to eat less fiber, move less, and have less money for fresh food. Untangling the snack from everything else around it is something even the scientists admit they can't fully do. The one chemical people point to is the emulsifiers, the additives that give snacks their long shelf life. Newer research suggests they might throw off the bacteria in your gut, but might is doing a lot of work in that sentence because it's far from proven. And despite what everyone assumes, to date there's no solid proof these additives cause cancer. That fear got attached to the word chemical, not to any real evidence. What's actually wrong with processed snacks is that they're designed to be addicting. Companies build them around what scientists call the bliss point, the exact mix of salt, fat, and crunch that hits your taste buds just right and keeps you eating past the point where you'd normally stop. That's why one chip is never just one chip. Because there's almost no fiber or protein in them, your body never feels full, so you put away a whole bag and you're hungry again soon. That's the real problem with them. You fill up on stuff that gives your body none of the nutrients that real food does. They're not poison. They're just food that does nothing for you. Charred meat. That black char on a grilled steak is the tastiest part, and it's also where the cancer risk hides. Deli meat turns dangerous through curing. This is a separate road to the same place. When meat hits very high heat or an open flame, two kinds of cancer-linked compounds form on the surface. The first, heterocyclic amines, build up in the meat when it cooks long and hot. The second, polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, form when fat drips onto the flame and burns into smoke, and that smoke coats the meat as it rises. The National Cancer Institute says both can damage your DNA, and that damage is one way cancer gets started. This isn't just a lab finding either. Studies tracking real people have tied heavy intake of well-done, grilled, and barbecued meat to higher rates of colon, pancreatic, and prostate cancer. It's the burning that does it, not the meat. Cook it lower and slower, flip it often, and scrape off the blackest parts, and most of the risk goes with it. Agave. Agave got sold to you as the healthy sugar, the natural one that won't spike your blood sugar like the white stuff does. That part's even true. It really doesn't. The problem is the reason why, and it's the opposite of healthy. Normal sugar raises your blood sugar because your body sends glucose into your blood. Agave is different. It's around 85% fructose, and fructose doesn't go into your blood at all. It goes almost entirely to your liver because your muscles and the rest of your cells can't burn it. So it slips past your blood sugar, then hands your liver a heavier load than plain sugar ever would. Send enough there, and the liver starts turning the excess into fat, some of which lodges in the liver itself. That's the same path that leads to fatty liver disease, the kind they used to only see in heavy drinkers. The low blood sugar score is real. It's just covering for the damage going to your liver instead. Next time someone swears a food is healthy or insists that it's killing you, don't take their word for it. Ask them who told them, and when they last checked.